Political parties urge to avoid rhetorics along ethnic and religious lines and focus on socio-economic concepts as key election dates draw closer. INEC assures European Union Election Observer Mission that Nigeria has rejigged its processes in line with global best practices. And on the conversation around 2027, we continue our discussion with APC stalwart Farouk Adamu Aliyu. These and more on our lineup. I'm Fisai Ogunfuyi. This is Political Update. Welcome. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu has appealed to the National Assembly to expedite action on the amendment of the 2022 Electoral Act to enable the Commission develop its guidelines for the 2027 general election. While receiving a delegation of European Union Observer Mission, Nigeria's chief election umpire noted that out of the 38 recommendations made by the EU, 8 are within the jurisdiction of INEC and have been implemented, while 30 of the recommendations, he said, need legislative consideration.
Has carefully considered all the 8 recommendations specifically addressed to us in your report. Action has been taken on aspects of the recommendations that only require administrative action to implement. Similarly, action is being taken on cross-cutting recommendations that require collective action between INEC and other bodies and stakeholders, while waiting for the conclusion of the ongoing legal review by the National Assembly on the recommendations that require legislative intervention.
What we are here to do is to look at the recommendations that flowed from the overall mission that were contained in the final report of the mission back in 2023. And we are very happy to see that there has been very significant progress against these recommendations. We recognize that there are certain time constraints, both in terms of judicial reform as well as administrative reform and, of course, constitutional reform, which is...
Meanwhile, efforts to identify weaknesses in the Nigerian electoral system have thrown up some proposals with the Nigerian Policy and Legal Advocacy Center discussing these ideas. Similarly, Kimpact Development Initiative and the Youth Electoral Reform Project have convened a multi-stakeholder coordination forum on electoral reforms.
Unveiling of a compendium of review reports of electoral reform panels and observers since 2010, it listed 27 areas of concern and the required legislations that are needed to significantly improve on Nigeria's electoral process. Among the critical and priority issues identified by PLAC are the appointment of members of the National and Resident Electoral Commissioners, unbundling of INEC, establishment of political parties registration and regulatory commission, establishment of Electoral Offences Commission, reorganization and integration of the existing State Independent Electoral Commission into the structure of INEC and reserved seat for women in legislative chambers. Other key issues include conduct of elections on the same day, independent candidature, use of technology in voting process and procedure, diaspora voting and swearing in of winners after adjudication of electoral disputes. Similarly, Kimpact Development Initiative and the Youth Electoral Reform Project convened the National Multi-Stakeholder Coordination Forum on Electoral Reforms. The forum, a high-level strategy session, aims to strengthen coordination among civil society organizations, professional bodies, legislative stakeholders, media partners and youth leaders ahead of critical electoral amendment votes. The forum also provided an opportunity to consolidate diverse advocacy efforts into a unified roadmap that amplifies youth and other electoral stakeholders' reform priorities and builds momentum for inclusive, transparent and credible electoral reforms in Nigeria.
In our last discussion on the road to 2027, we had APC stalwart Farouk Adamu Aliyu in the studio. We'll now bring you the full interview. Whether by plan or by design, the political class seemed to have dragged the rest of the nation into a straight course for 2027 when we are barely just halfway into the current cycle of administration. We're hearing of coalitions, we're hearing of cross-carpeting, we're hearing of different intentions and plans of different political parties as far as the 2027 general elections is concerned. Is this precipitous, or is it in the right direction? And are the cross-party interactions geared towards nation building, and is our democracy improving? Are we improving as a country in terms of our democratic practices? We have nobody better to talk about this than someone who has performed credibly well in terms of his activities on the floor of the House when he was a member of the National Assembly, a farmer, and a stalwart in a political setting, talking about a founding member of the APC. Let's welcome Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a while. You've been a bit quiet in the political scene.
Maybe
here, but in terms of engagements and your political party, just tell us the state of play at the moment. We're seeing coalitions all over the place. You are a founding member of the APC, and we saw something like this, not particularly the same way, but in 2013, you galvanizing interest from a cross section of political views. Parts of the AMPP at the time, CPC, Action Congress of Nigeria, and even Abuja. Is there any, perhaps, distinguishing features between what you did then and this new emergence of the ADC?
Well, I think there are a lot of differences, actually. Unfortunately for them, those guys in the coalition, I think they've started a little late. Because when we did the APC, we didn't start, this late. They are starting just 1 year, 2 years actually to election. So I think they've started on wrong footing, certainly. They need a lot of work. They need a lot of interactions and so on and so forth. So, but unfortunately, just like what you said in your opening remarks, we, the political class, have dragged the country into politicking before the time comes. Which I think is sad. It's not right, really. But then we in the ruling party, what do? We cannot just sit by and allow our opponents to take over the space. So really, that's why they are not allowing us to govern. So we are trying to mix governance and politicking as well. But certainly it's not good for the polity.
Are you managing both? Has there been perhaps some kind of, challenge in terms of governing, and then perhaps also participating in the gymnastics of the political space?
Of course, it's really, it's distraction. It calls for a lot of distraction, because sometimes while you're in the middle of governing, something will happen that you need to respond. So really, that kind of distraction, that's what we as a government do not want. But then there are some of us who are not in the government, what I'm saying, into day-to-day running of the government. So people like us tend to respond to certain things, but there are other issues that when they come, there must be response from the government, instead of the government to be governing. So they try to distract into doing something else, politicking as well. But well, that's where we are, so we have to mix both. Whether it's taking our time, yes it is. Really challenging, because the political class have not allowed us to govern peacefully, which is okay. It's all part of life. But we in the ruling party, we don't mind, yes, because that's how they feel like doing it, and we'll continue to govern while politicking at the same time.
We had last Tuesday the spokesperson of the ADC, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, and alluded to the fact that perhaps the government in power is a little bit jittery about the emergence of the party in terms of the CVs and credentials of those who have come together to form this party, which he describes as a credible alternative for the Nigerian voter.
Well, you see, we respect them. They are respectable Nigerians in the coalition who have contributed in one way or the other in running the country. But whether we are jittery, no, we are not. It always brings me to the elite fight. I want the people of this country to look at those in the opposition. What is the difference between them and us, really? All those people, most of them, 90% of them in the coalition, were the same faces that teamed up together with us to bring down Jonathan. So what are we talking about? So it's elite fight. The elite simply, when you don't get what you want, you just jump to the other side. All of a sudden, APC, it's bad government, APC is not for the poor, and so on. And look at the faces of those guys. Just like what I said. I don't want to mention names, but all of them. There is not a single one of them that was not probably part of APC or was in the PDP. You know, so what's the difference really? So I really want the people of the country to understand that at the level of the elites, we are one and the same. Simple. Which of the elite is better? Now it's left for the people to decide. So to me, it's destruction. To me, we respect them. They are respectful Nigerians, and you know, let's just play the politics the way it's supposed to be played. In 2027, we will do everything possible to win the election. But if in the wisdom of Nigerians, vote APC out, so be it. We defeated another party, another person in government, and he left, Jonathan. So if we're defeated, we'll go. But then we will not just sit and allow them do that. But if they do what I'm saying, if that's the wish of Nigerian people, so be it.
All right, let's talk about, you know, the elite that you alluded to. Does that mean that this will be the face of our democracy going forward? No ideologies, just people bringing themselves together. I've made this, you know, metaphorical allusion in the past, almost like if you are a sports fan, football clubs buying stars at the beginning of the transfer window.
But unfortunately, yes, that's the truth. But then there must be Nigerians. So wherever, whether they are the elites or not elites, they are Nigerians. So it will still be part of Nigerians who will form coalition or any other party. So that's it. But then certainly, what I said, it's an elite fight. Certainly. Because if this country has gone down the drain, we, the elites, collectively are responsible. So no elite will just move by the side and say, look, that group of elites, it's doing something bad. So if we are bad, all of us are bad. Now, how do we salvage this country? I mean, we, the elites, what I'm saying, God in his infinite mercy has given us the wisdom, or by sheer luck, we are where we are. So instead of us to sit and make sure this country works, it's a matter of backbiting and so on. If you are not part of the government, you try to bring the government down. So that is really the saddest part of this elite fight.
All right, let's look at the issue of governance and some of the things they have discussed. Is it, perhaps when you introspect as a party, have you done enough, for instance, as it were today, with the promises you came up with while you were ousting the PDP in 2015? Have you as a party, the APC, in the course of these 10 years, been able to convince Nigeria that those proposals you put on the table in 2014, crossing into 2015, are still on the table, or is APC the new old PDP?
No. Really, you know, we had challenges, really. And let me also confess that there are certain things that when you are outside the government, you don't know. I remember back in the days when we were accusing Jonathan of this fuel hike, really. So some of the things we fought against Jonathan, like the fuel subsidy of a thing, we really found out that when we came to government, even as Buhari, the president, people like me, our faces were all over the country, you know, demonstrating against the fuel hike. Now, when Buhari came, the reality, you know, hit him at the face. That look, we cannot continue the way we were. And Buhari increased tariff of petroleum products by 4 or 5 times. Now, when President Tinubu came, he realized that, look, yes, in spite of what we said about this thing, the reality is this subsidy has to go. And you remember very well that all the presidential candidates, all of them, also promised to remove subsidy. So the only thing was President Tinubu had the guts to do it. And there is no any other way, really. It's either the hard way or the soft way. So we went, the government went through the hard way. And of course there are challenges. Of course there are sufferings. Of course the shock that came with the removal of subsidy, you know, it didn't come to us easy. You know, we had to be explaining to people and so on. Some accept, some do not. And remember also now the subsidy removal plus the Naira and dollar stabilization, where back in the days people had briefcase government, I mean like dollar in their briefcase. You go to CBN, get, if you're an elite or you are somebody close to the government, you get whatever you want at a government rate and then come out and do it whatever you want to do. But now, you cannot do that. The actual, you know, our fund, our money, the actual standard of our money, what is the worth, what is it worth? That is what is there now. We don't export many things. What we export mostly is petroleum products. So, so those are things that we did as a government that is putting shock in the country. But then, of course, there are also improvements. No, because no matter what anybody says, as of today, prices of foodstuff are coming down. Of course, this is not something that will go away in just one day. And then with all these our policies, which we believe in that is working, if at the end of the day, Nigerians feel this is not the right way to go, so be it. But we believe this is the best way to go about it.
Time is not really our friend, but we may need to interrogate a few things. The president promised, you know, that there will be more money to do so many things in terms of funding projects at this national and subnational levels. And we have seen in the figures released monthly by the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, about the kind of money cascading down, you know, to the different tiers of government, especially the one that is close to the mind of the current administration, which is the local government. But some Nigerians, or a lot of Nigerians, still believe in what is termed audio money. We just hear these figures, and somewhere is stuck in between, perhaps from the federal down to the local government, some stuck in between. Do you still believe, you know, that perhaps value of death in the transmission of some of these things to the local government level is still a challenge, especially when we talk about how tightly gripped these, you know, accounts are with the state governments?
Yeah, you know, our constitution really has some issues because sometimes our constitution speaks from both sides of the cheek. Still, there is no real independence of the local government. But unfortunately, if you quarrel with your wife, you will blame Tinubu. If anybody has problem in his village, he will say Tinubu, forgetting the fact that there are 3 tiers of government. The Tinubu administration cascades these funds down, and each state is making more money. So instead of the state governors, really, some of these issues has to be at the doorstep of the state governments. When you talk about like hospitals, you know, primary schools, secondary schools, and so on, you find out that some of the state governments end up building government houses. Some of the state governments end up buying exotic cars or underpass bridges. There are some states in the northern part of the country that they don't need those underpass boats, but they create them, they do them. Some don't even need the airports that we build. So these are monies that are meant to be used for better things. But then in the wisdom of the leaders there, they channel the money where people don't see it, don't get it in their pockets. People just see it on the road. I mean, like when you see roads, but you don't have money to feed, that's a challenge. So what is the fault of the president? What is the fault of the federal government? So that's part of the problem, part of the decision that the president made, that states will get more money, local governments will get more money. Now, whether they are working with it or not, now it's left for the people to decide.
As we conclude this discussion, your party will come back to the table to present again its scorecard to Nigerians, perhaps for endorsement or whatever. At this time, are you confident, with all the new entrants, with all the talk in the political space, that you are still the most viable in the country?
Of course, you know, we're used to all these rhetorics and so on. As far as we're concerned, they're making noise. But I said we respect them. We don't underrate them. So we are going to use sledgehammer on them, politically. Simple, that's it. Because the politics we're playing. So that's, you know, you cannot ignore Atiku Abubakar, you cannot ignore Amechi, you cannot ignore El-Rufai, you cannot ignore all of them. Yes, but then we have a government to run. We also have an election to win. So we will do everything possible to defeat them at the polls. And if, as I said earlier, if in the wisdom of Nigerians, say that, look, APC no more, so be it. It's our country. This country does not belong to APC. It does not belong. It belongs to all of us. So we are practicing democracy, and we will continue as much as possible. Let us not fight. Let us not divide this country. Let us not bring bloodshed. Let us speak on the table, around the table, issues. Don't insult the president. Don't insult the opposition members. Let us be civil in what we're doing, so that let the people decide. And this government is trying as much as possible to revolutionize the election process, so that it will be so transparent that nobody, whether APC wins or not, If we win, they will see that we have won the election. If we have lost, we will see that we have lost the election. The president is determined to make sure the electoral processes are brought about in the right way.
What about you personally? Are you going to still participate in terms of active participation in politics at this time? Perhaps throwing your hat in the ring?
I am the party leader in my state, in Jigawa State. So my governor is in the first term. I'm an old man, over 60 now. I will allow the younger ones to take over the space. You know, they've been screaming that we've done space. So let the younger ones come and take over from us. We will mentor them.
Honorable Faruk Adamalu, nice to talk to you again.
Thank you.
That has been an interview segment of Political Update. We will continue with the program in a short while. All right, Honorable Faruk Adamalu, you are guest for this week. And of course, we'll bring more guests from all the political parties as we enter the home stretch of some of the key election dates in our cycle. Now, earlier in the week, the People's Democratic Party stated its credentials ahead of the 2027 election, saying it parades eminently qualified Nigerians, particularly at the governorship levels, whose performances have proven that the party is ready and capable to lead. The party was reacting to speculations linking former President Goodluck Jonathan to a possible presidential run on its platform.
Upcoming PDP National Convention, state congresses and 2027 elections top the agenda at this media briefing held at the party's Legacy House. PDP National Publicity Secretary Debo Ologunagba dismissed suggestions credited to former Information Minister Professor Jerry Gana that former President Jonathan will contest the presidential election in 2027.
I don't speak for Professor Jerry Gana. People can express their opinion. But I will emphasize this. In this party, as we are today, President Jonathan is a member, he has not said he's not a member. But I can tell you, today, this party has eminently qualified Nigerians, particularly at the governor's level, who have done exceedingly well. I don't speak for President Jonathan. I don't speak for Jerry Gana, with all due respect. But our party is focused on our convention. And when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it.
The PDP spokesman also reacted to reports of state congresses allegedly held in Cross River, Plateau, and Kebbi states. He described what took place in Cross River as nothing but a carnival, insisting no congress was conducted.
There's a process for you to have a congress. The NWC will constitute an electoral panel. We didn't come to that. The NWC is united on this. And we all agree that it should be postponed for reasons I've stated before.
He assured party members that the November 15 to 16 National Convention scheduled for Ibadan, Oyo State remains on course.
And just before we close, the Ashwaju Again 2027 group led by Ambassador Musa Mohamed Soken has pledged to launch a full-scale engagement session with grassroots and demonstrate the message of renewed hope agenda reforms in the critical sectors of the Nigerian economy. The group said the need to embark on the nationwide strategic engagement followed the performing records of the renewed hope agenda and overwhelming impact across the length and breadth of the country. The group commended the president for the establishment of NELFund, Sokoto Badagry Highway, Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway projects, and other social net and empowerment programs, tax reforms, and other feats recorded within 2 years of the current administration. And with that, we've come to the end of Political Update for this week. We'll be back again next Tuesday for a bumper package. Between now and then, do play your politics for the greater good and keep it locked on Nigeria's Television Authority, Africa's largest and finest, for news, reviews, previews, and interviews. Bye-bye now.
Know more about the devices and gadgets you use. Tech Mode will bridge that gap